I was sick from the day I was born, and it continued through my teens. And what happened was my diagnosis kept changing. But after about probably 6, I was out of danger of dying. But look, I think the effect of being sick made me realize what it's like to feel invisible, what it's like to not be seen and heard, what it's like to have your dignity stripped from you. I learned what it's like to believe that tomorrow's not going to be better than today. And all of those things inform the work that I do every day now. The most fundamental choice we get to make as human beings is whether or not we will see and hear one another. The question, I think, for each of us is whether or not we will choose to live our lives in that way. And as a community, which becomes even harder, whether or not we will choose to make community a common enterprise where we have to see and hear people who are different from ourselves, who may speak a different language, whose color of their skin is different from ours, whose station of life is fundamentally different from ours, then it becomes a little more difficult. Our communities, whether they're here in the US or overseas, face a lot of difficult challenges. We need really smart solutions to them. Oftentimes those solutions are complex. But at the end of the day, it's people who make things work. It's people who decide whether or not they're going to look outward and see people and hear others and make them visible. We've chosen at the Institute that first and foremost, we have to develop people who can lead and do work in a way that has the community always in their line of sight. The work of the Institute on a day-to-day basis takes very practical forms. Our work is about a practice, about turning outward and then finding ways to bring people together to create change in communities. And so to do that, we develop what we call public innovators. This could be someone who's head of a multi-billion-dollar national organization to someone who's working in their local neighborhood and everyone in between, who believe that we need to do our work differently. And so our work is about helping develop these individuals so that they're turned outward toward their community and that they can develop a practice that enables them to be more effective and successful in the work that they're doing.
We have literally thousands of public innovators that have been trained in the Harwood process, that are working inside their communities and inside their organizations, that are actually shifting the culture of those communities and organizations to understand that aspiration and hope is a tangible, measurable outcome that they can achieve and sustain on their own. They are learning how to build, and they've learned how to build the kind of collaborative partnerships that are really essential towards that sustainability. And they understand that this working across difference, working collaboratively around the notion that anything is possible in their community if they set their minds to it and know how to bring the right resources and people together. The thing that Harwood Institute does probably better than any other organization is it helps communities and public innovators, which means people in the community, design their future, execute upon their future, and sustain their future. And that's what Harwood does. That's what the Institute does, and the people working and the public innovators working collaboratively do.
At the Mobile Area Education Foundation, we've been working to improve schools for almost 25 years. And the Harwood Institute was a huge player with us because they were extremely important in our way of thinking about education in a different way. I think the most important part of our work has been creating both a shared vision for our community and shared responsibility for that vision. Harwood helped us see that. We knew from the beginning that we had critical divides in our community around geography, around race, around socioeconomics. And so we had to get to people where they were. That was a shift for us. And it happened. And we left hopeful together. Then the quest was, can we deliver what we say we're going to do together? And I think we've been pretty effective at doing that.
We are an organization that has, for over 125 years, been that steward of community priorities. But what does that look like today versus when we started? And what are the practices and the tools that are available to us to re-energize ourselves in that way. And the Harwood Institute gave us, fantastic capabilities and tools that allowed us to really get back to those roots. And I think the United Ways that have really adopted those kinds of practices have just seen tremendous results. One of the things that we think about very deeply is if we're going to serve the community, we need to measure how people see us as being trusted and also being a leader. And to the extent that listening and turning outward to listen to other people's concerns and aspirations and then making them our own has helped to enhance that, we've certainly seen that. And I think that's a direct result of our partnership and our work with the Harwood Institute.
I'm hell-bent on making sure that we're developing public innovators and we're embedding our practice in organizations and in networks and in communities so that people can have their own capacity to make their own choices to move forward their communities in ways that make sense to them. So our work now is spread to thousands of communities across the US and been pulled into 40 countries. And so what's important to me is that we develop sort of a distributed capacity that enables people to make this work their own and to continue this work by not being dependent on the Institute, but having their own capacity to be able to keep moving forward.